This Halloween season, we've got a skeleton here, and he has fallen and busted his crown. So we need to do a little bit of surgery. Let's see if we can't make him, bring him back to normal. I think what I'm going to do in order to fix our skeleton Humpty Dumpty is I'm going to try to use some Bondo, I think, to patch it up and see if I can't get it. What I'm planning on doing is putting some Bondo on it, sanding it down, painting it, and we'll see if I can bring it back to scratch. The one thing I'm going to need, in addition to the Bondo, which I already have, is something to put on the inside to sort of hold the Bondo. These are pretty big. This is pretty big cracks, and I don't have the broken pieces. I don't know what happened to him. It fell or something. But when I pulled it out, he was not in such happy shape. So let's see what I can find to fill that in and try and put Humpty back together again. All right, so my idea so far is I've got some of these these plastic cups, and I can take, and I think I'm gonna cut these guys up and then just kind of cut them in strips because they already kind of have a round shape to them. And I think I can glue them on the inside of this guy, cut just real thin strips. But I can glue them on the inside of here so that I have a sort of a structural element for the can't call it Bondo. It is, what is it called? It's what is this stuff called? Reinforced filler. I'm gonna use the reinforced filler to put him back together. But I think I can just cut strips out of this and glue them in, and let's see how that works. Got me some scissors. I think that might work better than X-Acto knives. So let's see here. Kind of looks pretty good. I have a little bit of accelerant, so I'm gonna just hit it. I probably could just leave it alone, but I've got it, might as well use it. Time to get out the fancy tools. Well, I think that will be enough. I just needed to get the big areas sealed over, kind of give it a little more structure. So I just have those support pieces in there, and then I'll put the body filler over top of it. I think that's what I'm going to use from now on, the body filler over top of it, and sand it down and see what's going on. And see if we can make it work. Funny thing about body filler, it works really good and it cures really fast, but the best thing about it is it smells delicious. Love the smell of body filler at night. Let's mix up a little bit of this and work fast, because it cures remarkably fast. It's also really good for things like if you're doing, if you have nails that you're trying to, in wood, that you're trying to cover up, and you know you're going to paint it, so you can just use body filler to fill in the holes, sand it a little bit, and then paint right over top of it. And it dries stupidly fast. So let's do put some on here. I'm not going to use a lot. Just enough to get an idea if it's going to work for me. I think it will. I think this will work. Yeah, that's what I was trying to avoid, is getting it all in my hands. So that's why I'm wearing gloves. Put some hardener in it. You don't have to be really exact with this either. It's just like, just dab. Once you start stirring it though, you've got a very short time frame to get your Bondo in there. So let me see here. I don't really care about getting it all filled in all at once. I'm taking my time with it. And I'm just kind of I'll slowly build up layers until it's filled in. I also don't want to get a whole, I don't want to, just do excess. I want to put kind of thin coats on it. Their little Bondo fell in there. There are electronic bits in the side of this thing. I don't know if they really work anymore, but I want to try to avoid getting any of this body filler on the electronic bits. I probably should have put a structural piece there. That's okay. Let's keep working around the edges till I get it filled in. It's starting to set up. I feel like getting thicker as I work. A good auto mechanic would be rolling their eyes at what I'm doing right now, I'm sure. Not an auto mechanic, a body guy. All right, so I'm gonna throw this stick away. I'll get another one and we'll mix up our second batch. When you're using body filler for yourself, if you decide to use body filler, keep in mind that don't use any tools that you like. Just use whatever you got lying around. I got some old razor blades that I can use, and I'm gonna sort of scrape some of this off initially. This hasn't quite, it's hard-ish, but it will still let me kind of carve a little bit in it and let me scrape it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of do a little bit of scraping to sort of get it to rough out the shape a little bit. Let's see how good I can do here. Like, I wouldn't use a good file on this. Because you want to use a file, because a file would be ideal to use on it right now, but you can't really use a file on it until after it's hardened. Once it's fully hardened, you can use a file on it, but it still is kind of plasticky, and it will gum up your file. Same thing with if you're using sandpaper, you kind of want to use sandpaper on it too, but you're going to get one or two swipes with your sandpaper and it gums up the sandpaper. And so then you'd just be wasting a ton of sandpaper. That's why things like razor blades, stuff you can cut, and then come back with a file later. One of the things that works pretty well are those files that look like they're little razor blades, microfiles. I don't really have any of them handy that I'm aware of, so can't do much with something you don't have, so use what I got right now. I'll eventually pull out some files, and when this stuff is really hardened, that way I can get it a nice smooth, and it's not going to be all bumpy like my head. It'll be a little smoother to match the rest of the shape. Take it out of here so I can hold it and do it. All right, so I got this guy, which is a kind of a file that has really kind of hard. Has a lot of teeth on it. So I'm going to take and just kind of start going after it. So let's see what I can get and just roughing it out. All right, so far this is what I've got. It's not too bad. So what I need to do is I'm gonna need to mix up a little more of the body filler, and I'll go in through these areas and I'll fill some of these areas in. Might sand this down just a little bit more. I'll try to use some sandpaper this time and we'll see how it looks. When you're trying to make things smooth, you're always better off to have something that has a hard backing on it. I don't have anything right now I can put my hands on that's hard, but this is an old belt from a, what's the word I'm looking for? Belt sander. An old belt from a belt sander. So sometimes, keeping this stuff is not a bad thing to do. All right, we'll let that cure. I put another coat on it just to kind of bulk up, fill in the areas that had not been smoothed out. And so now I'll go back over it with sandpaper and things and I'll smooth it out. And I'm actually pretty happy with it. It doesn't need to be perfectly round. It just needs to sort of all blend in together. And I don't know, it's getting close to where, it's getting close. I couldn't tell you what the shape of the hole used to be. So we'll let this cure, and then we'll attack it with some sandpaper again and see where that leads us. What I've got here is I got some 120 grit sandpaper. If I use the belt sander sandpaper, wherever that's at, it's going to be too rough. It's going to leave too many scratches in it. So I'm using the 120 grit, and I may even go over it with something a little finer than that, even maybe 220. And so then and I can make it smooth, and you won't see sandpaper marks in it, which is why you kind of go up in sandpaper so that you don't go up in grit, so that you don't so you take out your scratches. And I'm not really being overly careful with making sure I'm not making a sphere. I'm not making a cue ball. If I was trying to make a sphere, I would have a file and I'd be filing everything down. But the rest of the head is lumpy. The other thing you'll notice about the head is that there's little cracks in it anyway. The skeleton has got some cracks in it anyway. So you see, you know, up and through here, these little cracks and stuff. I'm going to want to mimic those back here too. So like this, there was a big crack here. I can continue that crack up through here. They see how I still have some sanding to do. I got to sand this kind of stuff down, but it's already, I think, looking pretty good. It certainly doesn't have a hole in it. So now I got some 220 sandpaper, and I had a little piece of wood that I was using as a kind of a backing, and I think I lost it. I think I spent most of my time looking for things that was just in my hand. I just had it, and what did I do with it? I don't know. So give me a second and I'll find it. There we go. I found it. Just something that gives me a little bit of a backing to my 220 grit sandpaper. This will probably be the last grit that I sand down. I don't think it needs much more than this. But once I put a primer on it, I can tell for sure. All right, let's see how we've done. So, right? Remember what he looked like before? Not too bad, huh? So later I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to continue some of these lines up through here so that you can't really visually tell. So when you look at it and you can't see that, you won't be able to see where that line stops to be able to determine where the fix happened. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do some of those in there. And then I think I'll just primer the whole thing. I'll cover the eyes up so that these little guys here, I don't think they work anymore. I think the electronics are shot. Whatever happened to destroy the electronics, but that's okay. That's all right. He can still sit outside during Halloween and be spooky. All right, so I'll work on him later. We'll come back and we'll doctor him up a little bit. All right, well, I got some Rust-Oleum paint. Should cover plastics, which this thing is. So I'm going to do some primer on it. And we'll look to see if we need to do any more sanding. And hopefully we won't have to do much of anything, and we can just start doing the painting. But we'll see. I need to take this guy up and we'll be back. All right, I got him all taped up. I even put some tape in his eyes, and I'm not going to worry too much about the inside of the eye. If I decide to do primer over the rest of it, which I might do because I just repaint the whole thing. But if those areas don't have white primer, not a big deal. I'll probably black them out anyway. So I'm not gonna worry all that much about it, but I got him taped off. So let's do a little bit of primer and we'll see what happens. All right, well, what's really interesting is, so I just put some primer on it. I haven't done his face yet, haven't done the front part of his face yet. But if I turn it around to the back, I don't think you can really tell it was ever repaired. I can't see any repair lines. What I can see, however, if you look real close, you can see some seam marks from the original casting. See that? So I don't know. I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to actually try to fix the original. I kind of have some other ideas which might be kind of fun if I took and maybe modified the structure of the skeleton a little bit. I could make it maybe a little more mean a little more demonic, you know? So you see you see his kind of eyes are drooping just a little bit. I'm thinking maybe I might pop those guys out. I'm not sure yet. I may just leave it alone and call it good because Halloween is getting close. So I could use it for Halloween and then maybe go after it later. But actually I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think you can tell. All right, I'll be back.